Yinlin does not only come home earlier than expected, but she also brings some shocking damage numbers with her as well. She is a Rectifier Electro Hybrid DPS who not only elevates Calcharo Teams to a whole new level, but also allows for new Quickswap Teams as later seen in the video. We will cover her skills, her best weapons, her echoes and echo sets, all her playstyles and rotations, and her best teams. Let's go! Before we start, massive thanks to Stepado and Proxy Yinlin for providing footage for me to use, otherwise I wouldn't have gotten this video out this quickly. Also quick shout out to Prelude for their awesome TC work and guides. Check them out for up-to-date builds and guides, a link is in the description. Yinlin features a 4-part basic attack as well as the classic heavy attack, a dodge counter and a mid-air attack. None of these are especially noteworthy, although you will use them within your main rotation and also likely outside of it. However, it should be noted her dodge counter and basic attack 4 both generate 8 judgment points, which also means dodging with her is actually quite good. So, what are judgment points? To find out, we need to have a look at her forte. Her basic attacks, Resonance Liberation and intro skill mark enemies with a Sinner's Mark, which is removed when Yinlin exits the field. This mark is also utilized by her skill, which is why we talk about it now. Her basic attacks and all parts of her resonance skill restore judgment points, as well as her intro skill. She can hold 100 of those judgment points, and whenever her forte is full, her heavy attack is replaced by Chameleon Cipher. Chameleon Cipher deals some damage to all targets, and if it hits a target marked by Sinner's Mark, it will get replaced by Punishment Mark. Punishment Mark lasts for 18 seconds, and when a target marked by said Punishment Mark is damaged, Judgment Strike will be cast, dealing further damage to all targets marked with said Punishment Mark. This can be triggered a maximum of once per second and can also happen while Yinlin is off field. Yinlin's resonance skill is on a 12-second cooldown and can be cast twice in a certain time window and generates 40 judgment, 30 resonance energy and 25 concerto in total. The first cast Magnetic Roar puts Yinlin into execution mode for 10 seconds, which makes her basic attacks and dodge counters trigger Electromagnetic Blast when they hit a target marked with Sinner's Mark, however only up to a maximum of 4 times. Each Electromagnetic Blast generates 3 judgment points and 5 concerto for a total of 12 judgment and 20 concerto. It can be recast to cast Lightning Execution for additional damage. Switching Yinlin off field before casting Lightning Execution will make you miss out on a hefty chunk of energy, concerto and judgment, so you do want to make sure you cast your skill twice to get out the maximum value. Her Resonance Liberation makes me feel, I mean it does a lot of damage on a 16-second cooldown, costs 125 energy and generates the usual 20 concerto. It is a Giga Nuke and does apply Sinner's Mark. Her intro skill does a small amount of damage, generates 10 concerto and 30 judgment points. The outro skill was once in the CBT2 absolutely insane and granted 20% electro damage deepen and 25% resonance liberation damage deepen for 14 seconds. And while it still does do that, now the incoming resonator will actually lose the buff when they are switched off field. As all the outro deepen buffs in this game behave this way now, this is a very strong nerf towards, well, all of them. However, it also heavily affects Calcharo's damage, especially as you do want to switch him out during his death messengers. However, it is still a very strong buff, and if you can guarantee to stay on field, Ultimate Reliant Electro characters will really love this. For her inherent skill Pain Immersion, after casting her skill Magnetic Roar, she will gain 15% crit rate for 5 seconds, and Deadly Focus increases the damage dealt by Lightning Execution by 10% when hitting targets marked with Sinner's Mark, and if it does so, it also grants her 10% attack for 4 seconds. That would cover her kit, so let's also have a quick look at her traces, which will grant her 12% attack and 8% crit rate in total. Around 50% of her damage dealt is considered skill damage, however a large portion of her damage comes from her judgment strikes off field, which is her forte. This is followed by her resonance liberation, and this in total results in our skill priority being first and foremost her forte into ultimate and skill, into basics, and lastly her intro. Her by far best weapon, regardless of which role or playstyle you choose for yourself, is String Master, which is purely because it is an absolute insane stat stick while also fitting her playstyle, you know, the damage being dealt while she is not on the field, really well. Right behind is Cosmic Ripples and rank 5 Augment, which gets actually very close to the standard 5-star. While Augment beats out all of the other options, Rectifier of Night or Jinzo Keeper are other possible options as well, so take honestly just the best weapon from this table of whatever you have for your new waifu. For her best set, 5-piece Void Thunder will outperform a 5-piece Moonlit Clouds even if played in a Calcharo team. As you can see here, going for Moonlit just makes you lose out on so much damage that it's not actually worth it. However, for completeness sake and in case a new character comes out where it is indeed worth it to take Moonlit instead, or you just feel like playing it, I have also included the Moonlit calcs in the sheet as well. If you do decide to go for a 5-piece Moonlit Clouds, Impermanence Heron is the Echo skill to take. If you play for meta and damage, a 5-piece Void Thunder with Tempest Mephis is your best option. Honorable mentions go to the Thundering Mephis and Flautis, being right behind Tempest Mephis. Another last option would be mix matching a 2-piece Lingering Tunes and a 2-piece Void Thunder, using the Tempest Mephis or a 5-piece Lingering Tunes with the Mech Abomination, however you will not really have a lot of uptime on that. This will make you lose out on more or less damage, depending on what you chose, but I want to list it as an option anyway. For your main stats, for the 1 costs you do want attack percent, for the 3 costs double electro percent is your best choice, and depending on your weapon you want either crit rate if your weapon does not have crit rate on it, or if you do use the String Master or Augment, then crit damage comes out ahead. By a lot actually. Going back to the 3 costs, mix matching attack percent and electro percent or even double attack percent will not cost you too much damage and is certainly a good option, especially early into the game. A setup of 4-4-1-1-1 with double crit values main stats on your 4 costs is possible as well, but it will always be worse than the classic 4-3-3-1-1 setup. However, as Electro main stats with good substat rolls on the right set as well is hard to come by, I do want to list that option here as well. Yinlin has an ER requirement of at least 20 to 30%, however I personally recommend 30 to 35%, maybe even 40, although that can already be a bit overkill. That requirement can easily be covered by 3 to 5 substat rolls and you do not need an ER percent 3 cost. Depending on your weapon, this also means even lesser rolls. For her substats, focus on ER percent until around 20%, if you can get more, that is fine as well, but after that we do want to aim for double crit values on all pieces, into attack percent, into skill damage percent, and lastly liberation damage and flat attack. Sum all of that up, and these are the final endgame stats I would recommend. Let's have a look at her sequences, because some of them will actually impact your rotation. Her by far most important sequence would be her S2 and S6, however her S2 does more than just grant her more damage. It will lower your ER requirement by around 10% and furthermore allows you to shorten your rotation to hit the judgment breakpoint earlier, which makes her smoother and easier to play as well. If you're looking for even more damage, her S6 will grant you a lot of it. For all those who want to main DPS Yinlin and stay with her on field for a large amount of time, I have bad news. Doing so, you will not only lose out on, well, a lot of damage, you will also likely be interrupted very often and possibly die as her animations are quite long. This also means Yinlin will always play in a Quickswap Hybrid style and this playstyle will not be for everyone. If you didn't have ADHD before, after playing Yinlin, you now certainly have. That said, let's cover her rotation. Echo Swap Cancel into Intro, into Basic 4, into Skill Magnetic Roar, into Ultimate, into Skill Lightning Execution, Swap Cancel into Basic Attacks 2, 3 and 4, Swap Cancel the 4th Basic Attack into her Fortake Chameleon, and that one you want to Swap Cancel as well. As you can already notice, there are many swap cancels utilized. This is not only because she is the quick swap queen, but mostly because she has the special interaction where you can go directly into basic 4 after her intro and basic 2 when swapped in her without her intro. That said, Aforementioned rotation works really well against single target, but for multi-target and AoE situations you do want to make sure the Sinner's Mark is applied on as many enemies as possible. We can achieve that by moving the ultimate to be used directly before we use our Chameleon. In that case, her rotation would change into Echo, into Intro, into Basic 4, into double cast her skill, into Basics 2, 3 and 4, into Ultimate, into Forte. It is extremely important to note that quickswap rotations are more of a guideline than a rule. You can attempt to follow it, but that doesn't mean it's always the best decision for any given scenario, nor is it necessarily realistic. Enemies are very active and aggressive, they are not a target dummy, you will need to dodge. However, especially for AoE scenarios, using your ultimate before your Forte, which is this judgment thing, it will be very important. Otherwise, you lose out on a lot of damage. Knowing how quickswap heavy she actually is, let's have a look at her teams. Of course, Calcharo is the #1 unit everyone is thinking about right now. And given Yinlin's outro, which will still provide a reasonable damage boost to Calcharo, even if Calcharo is swapped out and he does lose the buff, she still fits somewhat well to his very flashy playstyle with his Death Messengers. However, as a wise man once said, Yinlin is Calcharo's best teammate, but Calcharo's isn't hers. She fits fine into his team, but she would much prefer Quickswap Teams as Calcharo does not actually allow her for enough time windows to fully utilize her Quickswap styled kit. Which brings us to her other teams, because she also allows for some, let's call them new team comps, and finds herself a much wanted place in very quickswap heavy teams such as Havoc Rover and Encore. Both are not bound to specific time slots and are less tight when Yinlin would like to swap back. Regardless, if you play Calcharo or double carry quickswap, she pairs well with Verena and Jianjing as her supports, but Baiji is another option if you don't have those two. If we add all of that up, Yinlin can not only step on me, but also into most teams, especially in quickswap teams. If you enjoy such a playstyle, or just Yinlin's visuals, she is certainly a fantastic unit to get. That said, thank you so much for watching, don't forget to leave a like and comment on whether you will get Yinlin or not, and if you will still play her as your main on-fielder even though it is not the optimal way of playing her. Subscribe for more Wuthering Waves content, join our Discord server, link is in the description, and have a great day. Peace.